I think the presumption of this bill is that the police are in the wrong or guilty automatically. But my question is, what is the impetus of the bill? What?
The purpose of the bill,
And I have a tough time hearing it.
the purpose of the bill is to eliminate law enforcement from sitting inside polling locations for 16 hours a day. When you think about it, when you walk into a polling location and you see law enforcement in uniform with a gun, with a battalion and pepper spray, that is straight voter intimidation. It is not a purpose for this. What this bill does is says law enforcement should be allowed to be outside, being proactive, using our tax dollars in a much more useful way. Sitting inside of polling locations for 16 hours a day is not a good use of taxpayer dollars.
With all due respect to the Speaker, this bill doesn't state that. This bill makes a criminal of a law enforcement officer, he or she, simply from being within 100 foot of a polling place. The presumption is there that he or she is a criminal and is going to do something wrong. That is very clear, my interpretation. So I'd like your answer on it. It does not say sitting in there with a gun or pepper spray or as dramatic as we're going to make it. It simply says he or she is a criminal from being within 100 foot of a polling place. Correct me if I'm wrong.
With all due respect, that is not what the bill says.
That's my interpretation of the bill. And the second question, I really appreciate you answering these questions. As we know, we all love and know the Executive Protection Unit. The Speaker knows it well. The Senate President knows it. The Governor. What happens when one of the elected officials, such as the Governor, pulls up to a polling place with his entourage and 3, 4, 5, 6 state troopers? In your opinion, are the troopers in violation because they're outside of a polling place, armed and in their police cars? Because I can't see where there's an exemption for them in the law that he or she isn't breaking the law by simply being in the parking lot of a polling place. Thank you.
The bill does address that. Any candidate that is also on the ballot, and it is not allowing law enforcement to stay inside a polling location. When the governor comes to vote, those people some come in with him and some come out. The purpose is not to stay stagnant in a location. Be mindful that we have worked with law enforcement on this bill. We have crafted it in a way that it addresses a lot of the issues that you raise today. And it is a very good bill that says that law enforcement should be used in a proactive way, not sitting in the location for those long periods of time. I also recognize that law enforcement is also a securer of the ballots. They transport ballots to and from various locations. This past election, law enforcement and the National Guard were also brought in to help count ballots. So the bill does recognize all of these type of provisions, and they are included in the bill.
With all due respect, I differ. I do not see them in the bill where it gives any exemptions from law enforcement, and I just don't know what that policewoman goes home and she tells, and her daughter says, "Mom, why is it illegal? Why did people not have enough respect for you that it's illegal for you to be within 100 foot of a polling place?" Or that dad who goes home and his son looks up to him and says, "Dad, why are they treating you like a criminal by simply showing up at a polling place?" You know, everyone in this room, when we need a policeman, boy, we hope they come. And I hope they come a lot closer than 100 feet. And I hope they come more than 1 or 2 of them. The presumption here is that they're bad people. We wouldn't have a bill if we didn't presume that. The disrespect and the dismoral for the law enforcement who put their lives on every day. We had Sicknick who was killed. We had Talley who was killed. True American heroes. I wouldn't be offended. My colleagues, Gordon Johnson was a police officer. I'd love to see or greet him at my polling place if they chose to be there. That wouldn't offend me one iota. I feel good. I think the only people who should be worried is somebody that's committing a crime. I don't think we should be worried. I feel good when I pull up and I see this damn building, this thing here, this shed, but I don't feel good when I see that. When I see a state trooper sitting there, when they're protecting us, I don't feel threatened. And I don't know what this bill, I don't know what the impetus is, I don't know what the problem was. I think, why did we need a bill to bar policemen and women from polling places? It reminds me, it reminds me of a drug zone for drug dealers, saying drug dealers can't go within 100 foot or 1,000 foot of a school. These are our law enforcement people who protect us. This is outrageous doing this to them. And to let them have to explain to their kids and their husbands and their wives why they're being treated like criminals simply because they're a law enforcement officer blows my mind. And I think we should think long and hard about this bill.
Unfortunately, Assemblyman, racial profiling is also illegal, and it happens all the time. And there is, the bill is drafted in a way that it does not criminalize law enforcement. It just says that you shouldn't be within the polling place for long, extended periods of time. And I think you're missing the point when you say that we're criminalizing law enforcement. That's not what this bill does. Actually, it's trying to protect the voter. They should be able to walk into a location, do their civil due diligence, cast their ballot, and walk back out. If there is an incident that arises, it doesn't stop them from going to a polling location. It doesn't stop them from calling the police if something happens. They can still do that. The situation can be resolved, and then they can continue to conducting the elections that it's supposed to happen. It doesn't stop them from having law enforcement outside 100 feet away, where they should be. They can still be proactive outside. I think you're missing the mark when you say you want law enforcement to sit inside to intimidate voters as soon as they walk into the door for 16 hours a day. I think we have a lot more that we can do with those law enforcement officials outside of those polling places.
Assemblywoman, with all due respect, the bill does not say inside. I never mentioned inside law enforcement. This bill bans them from sitting outside the school. You know, the irony is President Obama's last report on the best voting and the best way to get the best turnout was to move the elections to the school, because the communities know where the schools are, the ADA accessible. And you know what the schools said? If we have election polling spots, we want police officers there. I'm not saying they have to be inside. I think we're spinning the words a little bit. This bill says within 100 feet. Let me read one other thing. It says if the police officer is called, because God forbid she goes there or he goes there without being called, then they're really in trouble. If they're called, the police officer or law enforcement officer responding to the summons shall take such prompt actions as available and may be necessary in order to address and remove the emergency disturbance from the location and ensure continued orderly conduct of the election and elections process, and shall remain at the location only as long as necessary to address, to remove the specific emergency of the disturbance. Right there you're telling them you don't trust them. Get in there, get that bad guy, get that bad girl, get the hell out of here. We don't want anybody seeing you because you're going to intimidate voters. That's outrageous. Outrageous.
Through the Speaker, I thank you so much. I've had conversations with members today that said they have elections in their schools, and there is not one single law enforcement there. So I think this contradiction to what you're saying here today, Assemblyman.
The bill says it. The bill does not say inside, Mr. Speaker. I'm trying to go through Speaker.
I think
the bill
the
does
bill
not say
speaks
law
for
enforcement.
itself, right? We can all read the bill. So let's.
Mr. Speaker, look, I just ask, rather than demoralize the law enforcement, the presumption that they've done something wrong, I ask you to consider pulling this bill and say, but we don't need this divisiveness and against law enforcement. And with the divisiveness that is going on and the horrible instances going on throughout the country, I think that we want more police people around. I'm not saying that they should be in every poll or even in any polls, but I'm not even saying many polls need them. But with the divisiveness, this probably isn't the time to make a police officer a criminal by simply going within 100 foot. Look, we rushed through the other bill where we didn't allow the police officers to talk to the parents, and now we're going to rush this through, and it's just a wrong bill, and there's no need for it. And I urge you, Mr. Speaker, to pull this bill, get it corrected, because it's not, the way I interpret it, it's a 7-page bill, read it many times, it's not the way that it seems to be interpreted here on the floor. It's 100 foot of the polling spot. Simply going there, you could be charged a 4th-degree crime.
Through the Speaker, I just wanted to end on, thank you so much for posting this bill. Thank you for recognizing the importance of removing voter intimidations at our polling locations. And I thank all the law enforcement, our clerk association also, who worked very diligently with me on this bill. And I look forward to passing this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, my final word is I think this could suppress the vote. If people feel that it's not safe and that there's not going to be law enforcement, people may stay home with what's going on throughout the country because they feel like there won't be law enforcement there to protect them. And again, I'm not advocating for every poll. I'm advocating for the right to go there, drive by, make sure everything is correct, but more importantly, not to treat them as criminals simply but with being within the polling. And again, I urge you, Mr. Speaker, to pull this bill. Thank you.